Dave, this one's for you. Guess who just got a job? Take that off. That's mine. Dude, when is the last time you even looked at this, much less wore it? It means a lot to me. So you really think that Foghorns was that much better than Raising Cane's? In every sense of the word. Way more options, bigger chicken, seasoned chicken. What do you know about seasoning? You're white. Dude, Cane's chicken without the sauce tastes like it was seasoned with water. You look like you were seasoned with water. Hey! Okay, so if they were so good, then why did they go under? Running a business successfully is hard. Yeah, I guess you and your YouTube channel would know a lot about that. Today will be a special and fun video. I'm going to be digging up some nostalgia and making some food from my first real job, which was Foghorn's chicken fingers. I did do a video a few years ago where I made like a regular chicken basket of what we made, but today I'm going to make the meal that I always treated myself to during long shifts working there, which was a fried chicken sandwich and seasoned fries. I miss that food so much, so I'm really excited to get into this. First, we'll knock the condiments out of the way, starting with the Foghorn sauce, which is really resemblant to a cane sauce. By the way, I don't have any of the recipes from the restaurant. I'm just guessing with everything here, so don't come at me, Dave. But cane sauce recipes are regularly available on the internet anyway, so I'm starting with some Kewpie mayo, but any mayo works. It's gonna be roughly equal parts of ketchup as well, a little pinch of garlic salt, or if you don't have that, just some garlic powder and salt, a little dash of Worcestershire sauce, and a good few cranks of black pepper. And what we did at Foghorn's was add a little pinch of brown sugar to this, which makes it better than cane sauce. Let's get that mixed together. I just remember having to portion this sauce out. We made it in like this big, I guess crab boil seasoning jar. And we drilled a little hole into the bottom of it so you could just squeeze it into a bunch of different sauce cups that you had laid out on a table. Good times. That looks perfect. Let me get a little taste just to make sure. Tastes exactly like I remember. I'm also gonna make a really simple honey mustard because that's what I use to dip my sandwich in. This also has a little bit of mayo and honey, of course. And then I've got both yellow mustard and Dijon mustard. I'm gonna put a little bit of each in there and just a pinch of salt, and that's good. Anytime I'm making condiments or sauces, I never measure stuff because you just taste the season at the end and you can add whatever it's missing, in your opinion. Let's try that. It's pretty good, but it's a little thin, so I'm just gonna thicken it up with some more mayo. I think it could be a hair sweeter as well, so just a little bit more honey. All right, I think that's pretty perfect. Gonna be dipping my sandwich in that in a few minutes. Actually, I lied about everything, and this is missing some lemon juice, which is a really important ingredient for this. Just a squeeze is what I need. That's much better. It was just missing that hint of brightness. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start heating my oil so it can be ready when I start frying the chicken. I just got this fairly used savory oil. If you saw my wings video, then you know that I reuse this for savory dishes. And I always need a little bit of clean oil because the last fry kind of soaks up some of that oil, so it's missing some. Let's get my candy thermometer in there, shoot. I wanna fry my chicken around 350, so I'm gonna heat this to 380-ish so that it can cool down when the chicken goes in. I'm doing this on my gas stove, by the way, because my induction burner really sucks when it comes to high heat. All right, while it's heating, I can prep my breading stations, which this is how we did it at Foghorn's. We just kept this vat of buttermilk and eggs mixed together to quickly dredge the chicken in before putting it into the flour. We made much bigger portions of this, but I literally only have one egg left, so it's gonna be just enough for this portion of chicken. And we didn't like brine our chicken or marinate it. We just really dunked it in right before we cooked it. But something special about that mixture of buttermilk and eggs that really helped the flour stick and brought enough flavor to the inside of the chicken. When I worked at Foghorn's, I worked every position that we had, which there were really only three. There was the frying station, then there was the board station where you assembled the boxes, which also took care of the grill station because we had grilled chicken and shrimp as well. And then there was the register station, so that's where you took the orders, took the money, and handed the food out to the cars, made the drinks as well. It was during like my first 2 years of college, and it was a really fun experience. Like, you learned a lot working with customers, especially in the food industry. I think it gave me some really good hard life lessons that I keep with me to this day. Now to figure out what to do with almost a half gallon of buttermilk. Really need to make some waffles. All right, now to make the flour dredge. I think this was the secret to the really good Foghorn's chicken. We did not make our flour dredge in-house. We actually imported it in boxes, so we really don't know what was inside of it. And I could not figure it out. So I'm just gonna put some flour into a container and then a bunch of seasonings. And that seems to work pretty well. And that bunch of seasonings is a good pinch of salt. Again, I think this is what separates Foghorn chicken from Cane's chicken. People love Cane's, but it's really the sauce that makes it. The chicken itself has no flavor. That breading is just really bland in my opinion. Would it kill you to add a few seasonings to it? I don't think so. All right, I've got some garlic and onion powder that are gonna go in. Also doing a little bit of MSG. I doubt this was in the Foghorn chicken, but I always put this on my fried dredges. Same with this dry mustard powder. I doubt it was in there, but I always put this with my fried chicken flour dredges. Bit of smoked paprika, which is gonna bring good color, and it's gonna bring good color to the final product as well. And I like celery salt in my fried stuff as well, just tastes good. Lastly, I have some of this Cajun seasoning that I'm gonna add, bring some color, but also it's a lot of these spices I already have, just some more flavor. Okay, let's mix that really well. Yeah, I used to work the summers at this restaurant pretty like full time, like 40 hours. And then during the school year, they were really good about just letting me work when I could. And it just typically ended up being like Saturdays. I just did double shifts for 13 hours or so. And it was just a blast. I enjoyed it. You know, I only worked there for 2 years, but I met a lot of people. You know, there's a lot of turnover in an industry like that. Just met a lot of cool people from different walks of life. I feel like this needs some more color, so I'm just gonna add a lot more paprika. Just a little bit more Cajun seasoning also. This is something you can't season to taste, but I don't really think measuring your flour ingredients like this is important because, you know, it's gonna get enough on the chicken. All right, I think that's good. We're gonna set this aside and get everything else ready. We also have to make the toast for the sandwich. You know, like I said, this is pretty similar to Cane's. We had, you know, chicken baskets, but it was a little more elaborate than that. We did the fried chicken baskets with the fries and the coleslaw and the toast, but we also did the grilled chicken. We did fried and grilled fish and shrimp as well, so it was just better. I have this loaf of French bread that I'm gonna cut off a few slices so that we can toast them. Yeah, it was just a single locally owned business, and sometimes those are just hard to keep up. I was really sad when I got the news that we had to close down. You know, I was still working there at the time. You know, even for a time we had a breakfast menu and we just did stuff like chicken biscuits, sausage biscuits, bacon biscuits, stuff like that. We did biscuits and gravy. It was really interesting and really enjoyable. Yeah, our sandwiches are like Cane's where they're on these small pieces of toast. So I'm gonna make 2 sandwiches to fit my chicken on. But of course, to toast this bread, I need to make a garlic butter, which I have some butter softening here. That's gonna be ready to go. Again, this is not gonna be super accurate to what we had at the restaurant. I don't know how that garlic butter was made, but this will not be bad by any means. So a few tablespoons of softened butter there. Got a couple of cloves of garlic that I'm gonna press into this. Perfect. And I just have some salt and some dried parsley. You could use fresh parsley, but this is all I have. It's really essentially all you need to make a good garlic butter. Yeah, I don't know how I continued doing this throughout college. During my freshman year, I was doing like 2 days a week working at Foghorn's and still doing everything else I do, teaching my martial arts classes, helping at my church, and going to school. That's perfect. I'm gonna go heat up this nonstick pan. But then I guess it was my sophomore year of college. I picked up an on-campus job where I was kind of tutoring math. And I was doing that and still doing Foghorn's on the weekends. I don't know how I did that. I definitely couldn't do that these days. It would be just too much. But those are definitely good times that I cherish and I'll never forget. So I'm spreading on this garlic butter. At the restaurant, we had one of these butter wheels that we would just quickly get some garlic butter on it and toast it off on our grill. All right, I'm gonna get my induction burner here. It's not gonna work on my nonstick just because of the material, but just to get the shot and not to put it on the hot surface on top of a countertop like that. And I really do miss working in that restaurant. It was my first experience cooking of any kind, even though it was just frying stuff. It was the first time that I ever really enjoyed cooking food. I never did at home. And then after I stopped working there, I went to the rest of college and still didn't cook until I moved out of my parents' house and really fell in love with it, and that's why I'm doing this. But just thinking back to the small stuff that I did there, just brings back good memories, like I keep saying. All right, that should be preheated enough. Let me get these pieces of bread on. We used to have this little, I don't know, concrete press or something flat that we would stick on top. It wasn't as heavy as a grill press, but that's how we toasted our bread. I'm just gonna use my hands in the meantime. Turn this, I can't turn the heat on, it doesn't work. I'm gonna get some butter on the other side because I want that flavor on both sides and the crunch too. Maybe get some more heat off the gas grate. All right, these are starting to brown, but they need a couple minutes more on this side. Should probably be a hotter pan, but it's okay. In the meantime, I'm gonna first fry my fries because the oil is gonna be a little cleaner before I put the chicken in. I'm also gonna flip my bread at this time. That camera's about to overheat. We did regular fries at Foghorn's, but I always chose the seasoned fries because we had that as an option. It was just a frozen bag. I have these Rally's fries, which is not gonna be the exact same. I've made the seasoned fries myself from scratch before, and you just kind of make a wet batter, and then it's an interesting process. The fries kind of get a coating on the outside of them when you fry them, but here we go. You go let these do their thing on the stove. Super dangerous. Check in on our bread. It's almost done there. All right, that bread looks toasted, so I'm gonna set it aside on this wire rack. Don't want that to get soggy. This is so stupid. You should only need a couple of minutes. If I remember correctly at the restaurant, we used 4-minute timers and then pulled this at 1:30 if it was fries. So that would be 2.5 minutes. Really not long at all. All right, I'm just pulling these off. They look crispy now. I'm gonna get them on a tray and stick them in the oven at its lowest setting so that they can stay warm and crispy for when the chicken's done. Be right back. All right, we're about ready to fry the chicken. I just have these chicken tenderloins here. At Foghorn's, we cut the chicken ourselves from breasts, but I'm just gonna use this here because it's easier. It's almost ready to go. What I just have to do is take these tendons out. Comes with these little white tendons. So the hack that I've seen is to grab the tendon with a paper towel and then put the fork around it and just pull, and it comes off. Kind of destroys the chicken though, so I guess do it carefully. I'm gonna go ahead and take care of all these that way. Yeah, do be careful because I pulled off meat on that one. So yeah, something else about Cane's is their chicken fingers are not this size, so they're definitely not using tenderloins, or not whole ones at least. So 4 little pieces usually doesn't cut it, at least for me. Another interesting fact about us is we cooked everything to order. We didn't, hold anything on hand. So anytime someone came up and ordered a 4-piece box, we would just grab 4 tenderloins out of our container and then put them in the buttermilk mixture. And ours was much bigger, so we could fit a lot at one time. But you just want to get buttermilk all around, and then I'm gonna go 2 at a time here into my flour just because I don't have a big container. Let the excess drip off and then into the flour. I should have done it wet hand, dry hand, so let me go correct that. So get some coating on top, and you really want to press that in so that it sticks. Yeah, and Dave really emphasized to us that we needed to coat every part of the chicken and really press it in there again so it sticks. That's how the fingers are gonna look, and then I'm just gonna stick them on a plate until my oil is ready. I'll come back when all these are done because my camera is overheating once again. I don't know, is there something I can do to not make my camera do that? Because kind of like 10 minutes of filming overheats it, and it's not like over a stove or anything, so I don't know if I'm doing something wrong, but I feel like cameras should work better than that. Okay, and lastly, of course, we'll be frying our breaded chicken. See those guys, they look great. At the restaurant, as soon as they came out of the flour, we would run them over to the fryer and dump them all in, but I just had to get my oil heated back up. So I'm gonna do this in 2 batches. And the way that Dave taught us to lay the chicken in is to get it between the fingers. And you could get 4 pieces like that. That way they would be separated when you put them in the oil. And what's most important is to lay them away from you. So you kind of get the bottoms in and then go away. And then after a few seconds, we're gonna try to break them apart. There goes my induction burner. It says it's too hot, so it's killing my heat. Okay, just making sure that these are separated, but not breaking them up too much. So when an order comes in, we all hear it over the intercom. This was a drive-through only restaurant. It was probably just about as big as my living and kitchen area. But as soon as you hear what the order is, if you're the fryer, you start throwing down on your chicken first because that's gonna be the thing that takes the longest. And then while all this is happening, the person on the board is getting a box ready, putting the paper inside, putting the sauce and whatever elements that they order. You know, if they get coleslaw, that comes from the board as well. And then the register person is, you know, punching the order in, sending it through. By the time the car comes up, they're getting their credit card or cash or whatever, giving their receipt, making the drink that they ordered, and then hopefully by the time that this fryer is done, that chicken is going in the box and it's going straight out fresh to the customer. You know, that gets more complicated as more and more cars come and line up around the building. I'm sure if you worked in the food industry, you get exactly what that's like. So like I said, the fries were on a 4-minute timer and you pulled them at 1:30. The chicken was on a 5-minute timer and you also pulled it at 1:30, which means it just cooked a minute longer than everything else, but it kind of kept the fryer person able to pull them at the same time without getting confused. Although fish and shrimp were pulled at different times, so it doesn't really matter. However, when I'm frying at home, I always use a thermometer to be fully accurate on when my meat is done rather than relying on a time. And now this meat is at temperature, so I'm gonna grab it and pull it off to this wire rack. Keep it separate so it stays crispy. That's gonna go into my oven and keep warm while I fry the rest of the chicken. This oil is a little too hot, so I'm gonna wait for it to cool down a little bit. I tried to start working at Foghorn's the summer before I actually did start working there because my best friend Austin got a job there, and that's how I found out about it in the first place. And I would call like every week and see if they had an opening, and they just didn't the whole summer. And then I went back to school, and then I finally did get back the next summer and they let me on. But I just really wanted to work a job with my friend, and we ended up doing it just for that summer because he stopped at the end of that summer. I kept going, but we worked a few shifts together and it was a blast. The lunch rushes were really fun, just a lot of pressure, but you know, as an 18-year-old, you've never been in that kind of environment before, so just a cool experience. But this oil's at temp, so I'm gonna go ahead and drop in the rest of my chicken. I'm not doing the finger method, but just me being lazy. I'll be back once this is all done. It's almost there. All right, everything's ready to go, so we're gonna build our basket here. We obviously didn't serve stuff in a basket, but I figured it works for fried chicken. I just have some parchment paper inside. Start with my fries. Then we've got our toasted bread, which I'm gonna generously spread with my Foghorn sauce. So you'd only get one sauce with your meal, but the trick was to ask for a little bit of Foghorn sauce on the sandwich, and that wouldn't count towards your sauce. And you could just order whatever other sauce you want as the side, which they're not open anymore, so you can't do that. But if you really only fit one chicken finger per sandwich, and that's how this meal came, to get some sauce on my other piece of bread for the top. And I have some homemade pickles that I'm gonna add as well. And then repeat for the other side. Gotta make room for my honey mustard, don't forget about that. And there you have it. Doesn't look quite as good as what I used to get from the restaurant, but it's going to be amazing. Let's taste test it. The nostalgia is so real with this one. This takes me back like 10 years to where I was at the restaurant during a long shift, making myself a meal. That was my favorite part, to sit down and take a break and enjoy my food. My camera overheated again and I had to let it sit for a few minutes. So this stuff is super cold, so let's get into it. Cheers. Tastes nearly identical to what I remember. There's just some nostalgic flavor about this seasoned chicken with the garlic bread as the bun. Man, I really miss this place. I definitely don't hit the recipe exactly, and I never will, but just having something that's close enough still means a lot to me. Of course, you gotta dunk it into the honey mustard. And then having the seasoned fries with the honey mustard as well. Yeah, that's it. Except I always got to eat this fresh out of the fryer, and this stuff is a little chilled, but that's okay. So I essentially went back and made the first real recipe of anything that I've made before. Even though it wasn't my recipe, I was just cooking food for someone else. I'm really glad I had that experience, and I'm really glad I could share it with you guys if you watch this video. Hope you enjoyed it. That's gonna do it for me today. Thank you all for watching. Be blessed, and I'll see you next time. Foghorns will live on forever.